There are 1,000,000 ways to die. We just wanna talk about it. Codeheads.
Hey, welcome back to Codeheads. We're back at it.
Still at it.
Yeah. Are you excited to be here?
Apparently the demand is there, so we're back.
It is. Yeah, by popular demand. I've
Mhm.
never been so popular in my life. Um,
So gratifying.
I know. It's like, oh my God. But I will say that I'm really stoked for today because this is one of my favorite topics on the planet. And we are going to be talking about mechanical CPR. And I'm obsessed with mechanical CPR, and I have been for a long time. And in our initial reactions, I think you guys got a little flavor of how I feel about the new guidelines from the 2025 American Heart Association guidelines related to mechanical CPR. I am not pleased, to say the least, with the statements they've made. Mike, are you pleased?
I'm not pleased with the way they have come out. There's so much ambiguity if you read each recommendation. There's, two of them are 2B. There's another one that's level 3. Totally don't do it, basically, is what they're saying.
Yes.
We cannot advocate for it. And that's my problem. So I think there's a lot of reasonable analysis and input that's right there, but they're just not,
Not
articulating it
taking the
well.
leap. Yeah, it's the words. It's the
And
way
that's
they
the
say it.
issue. And that's, was everyone's immediate issue was like, hell, you're coming for my, Lucas device, like we're still going to use them. And, but even so, even though the dust has settled, I think everyone, like you were just saying, we have every right to take issue with the way this has been presented.
I take umbrage. You are correct.
Mhm.
And because it causes so much confusion and the way they wrote it is very kind of confusing. So just to give some background for those who maybe are not down with mechanical CPR, who have not used it, who are not aware of what it is, it's kind of what it sounds like. It is a mechanical CPR device. It is a device that is a machine that gives near perfect compressions, so high quality CPR, and it does it. It's a machine. It does it independently. You just kind of set it and forget it, and it goes and it
Right.
does the compressions for you. Which is a thing of beauty, as I can say, as an aging healthcare provider. It's nice to have something that I know is giving consistent compressions and doing it well and much better than I can.
Mhm.
Um, but there are two different types. There's a load distributing type of device, and that's got a big band that goes around patients and kind of squeezes in to circulate the blood. And then there is a piston type device, and the piston device really more mimics what you're doing with your hands with your compressions. It's like a suction cup
Yeah.
goes in the chest and it pushes down and up and down and up. And the beauty
We
is,
utilize the band device, just to mention that. So pre-hospital, when I was doing pre-hospital
yep,
paramedic, we used the band device, the circumferential compressions.
right.
So that, like you just stated perfectly, it's the piston more mimics, the hand placement, like a
Correct.
hand, you
Yeah.
know, except
And
piston
it
grip.
does allow for a full chest recoil, which is one of the big things in high
Yeah.
quality CPR, is that you're not only looking for a rate of 100 to 120 and going in those 5 centimeters or 2 inches and minimizing hands off time. Mechanical CPR is beautiful because you can shock, you can give a defibrillation while it's going because it doesn't care if
Well,
it's electrocuted. I do, but the machine doesn't. It's still going to keep on doing its thing.
one of
Um,
my top 2 favorite parts is that
yeah,
shocking while, compression
pressing.
are going on, because we take our hands off the chest twice routinely. Pulse and rhythm check, 1, 2, shock so that we don't get the joules going through us. Now we're only taking our hands off once for the pulse and
Correct.
rhythm check. How long does
Yeah.
that take? Couple seconds.
Right, you just
So,
literally go pause and then whoop, go back again. And it's beautiful, and actually, we don't even need to do the pulse check if you have end-tidal CO2. Um, you
that
know, so, but we do need to look for a rhythm change, and we're getting into the weeds, but the mechanical CPR device will consistently
love the
continue
weeds.
to go and give compressions, and it gives near perfect CPR, high
Mhm.
quality CPR, which humans, as we've talked about in other pods. Humans cannot consistently do for 2 minutes, but a machine on one fully charged battery can do it. I know the piston style device, the Lucas device, can do it for 45 minutes without a recharge. And you can actually plug it in and it'll continue going. And I believe that the Auto Pulse, which is the load distributing device, has a little bit shorter of a battery time. I believe they have a newer one that's called the NXT that supposedly has a little bit longer on the battery. Um, but my experience isn't with that device.
Can we
However,
emphasize consistency? Like that's the word you just used.
yeah,
And consistency, I think, is really important to recognize and just take a moment to recognize because I can do perfect compressions right now if I had to. 2 inches, 100 to 120 per minute. What I can't do is do them consistently over a period of 2, 3, 4 minutes. Even after a minute, the end title might tell me. So that to me is what's so marketable and what's so appealing is just consistency. Instead of this erratic,
right.
perfusion due
Yep.
to, you know, it's not our fault. We fatigue. We might not have a good switch in place. There's a lot of reasons. So I wanted to make sure when you said consistent, I echo it so that everyone understands how valuable that is in a CPR code situation.
Right. And I know that we're painting it in this like beautiful picture and because we feel that it is because we have used mechanical CPR successfully, both of us independently and also together.
Hmm.
Um it's always perfect when we're together, but we've used it both separately and together and it has worked and we've seen the good it can do, not only for our patients, but also for the staff around. It's like this huge mental load of like just in the room when you put on a device and it starts going and you don't have to stress about, having people lining up against the wall to like be quote unquote fresh arms. We get to just focus now on, the other things
Yes.
surrounding the resuscitation that we can really impact. And we know that a machine is going to be giving way better compressions than we are, and we don't have to stress about those fresh arms. Um, we're going to be watching the end tidal CO2 still, but we're going to be watching it for the purpose of, do we have ROSC? Is there, any sort of change, in the patient? Maybe they had maybe the device got moved or something, but we should be seeing with a machine that's giving consistent high quality compressions that the end tidal CO2 is just going to be in a great
Yeah.
area until they hit ROSC, return of spontaneous circulation. So there is the flip side. I do know providers who have had bad experiences with
Hmm.
mechanical CPR, and it's usually due to a lack of hands-on with it. It's like anything else we do in life, if you don't use it a lot,
Right.
you know, and the stakes are high when you go to use it, like a high acuity, low occurrence device, you're going to be stressed and it's not going to go as well. Um, just that's how
Yeah.
life goes. you know, Even at home, you might have fire extinguishers in your house and you actually have a fire and you're like, oh my God, how do I use it? It's
It's simple to use, though. These devices are simple to use, but like you said, it's like an AED. If you don't look at it, except for every 2 years, you're going to fumble, especially if you're not accustomed to working codes routinely when you're
correct.
going to be already a little bit more nervous. So simple to use. For example, the piston driven device that you mentioned, we teach that at the medical center where I work, where I teach ACLS, and it is really simple. And
Yep.
once they get their hands on it and actually do it, they realize that. But if 2 years go by, they're it's not simple. If I didn't see it for 2 years, it wouldn't be simple.
And it
I have to
seems,
refresh my memory and I
yeah,
might make a mistake.
correct, and it seems so intimidating when someone's, like, dead for all intents and purposes because they
Raises
do
the
not
stakes,
have a
right?
pulse, and everyone's, like, eyes are on you to get this device in place, and
Yeah.
you're
You're like,
sweating thinking, "Oh my god, am I doing it right?" So, that can lead to a stressful situation, but that's to me,
exacerbate
I
the
look at that as, you're being set up for failure. If you don't put your hands on the device that often and you're supposed to be using it,
trauma.
it's going to increase the hands-off time, and so I'm gonna jump into actually the AHA statement. I'm going to jump into what they made for the initial statement and then their recommendations because um, I think it's based primarily on the hands off time because there are
Absolutely.
sometimes that people have trouble placing the device and it does increase the amount of time that we are not doing compressions. Um, despite, different training techniques such as we train and, I've trained at many different places that you do compressions whoever's doing manual compressions maintains that and continues to do manual compressions until the device is in place
Yep.
and deployed and working correctly.
Yes.
But other places don't do that um, for various reasons. But that's where we run into the pickle that there's a long hands-off time, and people will then putz around with it and like, ooh, 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 and you're just not compressing someone's chest trying to get a machine to work, and that's obviously not ideal.
And that's an argument I'll support. If anything decreases the time your hands are on that chest, I will argue against it. Whatever
Mhm.
that is, however that's occurring. So therefore that has to be measured. And from there has to be, we could talk about training a bit later, but that point I totally understand. Just, hands off
Yeah.
the chest. That's a sin. It's the worst thing we could be doing. So
Um,
that's why if it does cause a problem deploying it, then we got to figure out why.
Correct.
If we're going to be utilizing it, we got to figure out why, if there is a problem in terms of interruption of compressions.
Right, and that's yeah, I'm not gonna get into my QI, my quality improvement, rabbit hole right now, but
Soon, though,
yes.
I hope, because it's good.
I'll get
Mm.
into it eventually, but so I do want to just, really point out the AHA's statement, which they make a statement that says studies comparing mechanical to manual CPR have shown that mechanical CPR is no better than manual CPR in improving patient survival. At present, the routine use of mechanical CPR devices is not recommended,
Mm.
and the class of recommendation is 3. That's a no
Yes.
benefit, but also the level of evidence is they are saying is restricted. Like, basically, they're saying there's nothing, no, evidence supporting it, but may be considered in specific circumstances in which high quality CPR cannot be maintained for healthcare professional safety, such as during transport to a hospital. And that's a class of evidence 2B. And they're saying there's a limited data set to support that. And it's interesting because they do kind of, I'm going to say putz again, but they're putzing around with their words a little bit because that's their, generalized statement. And then when you go to the charts of recommendations, they do say an adult cardiac arrest, the use of mechanical CPR devices may be considered in specific settings where the delivery of high quality manual compressions may be challenging or dangerous for the healthcare professional, as long as rescuers strictly limit interruptions in CPR during deployment and removal of the device. And that first statement, if you noticed, it only said you can use it in transport to the hospital. So it made it seem like it was only effective or you were only able to use it. They were supporting only using it for EMS.
As a movement device. I've heard it referred to that
Correct.
as a
For
movement device.
transport. Yep.
Extrication, transport, yes.
Which I get. The back of a truck, I mean, I don't know how you guys do that. Every time I'm in there, I'm like, oh, it's a ride I need to get off of. Um,
Did.
so I can't even imagine doing compressions in the back of a truck. And I can't imagine anyone not using a compression device,
Same.
just for safety. If you're like careening down the highway at, high speeds or,
So many reasons.
yeah, like it's just it's mind-boggling to me, but they are giving that a level of 2B, which is like slightly above like don't do it.
Yep.
And then they do double down on the routine use of mechanical CPR is not recommended in adult cardiac arrest and they're saying there's no benefit. And
Can I just interject? I mean, one thing to remind everyone is I think these guidelines are targeted toward the population average and don't always account for the extenuating circumstances you just described or separation between EMS and hospital, although we can clearly see they're referring to that.
Right.
when they mention when it should be used, when they do advocate for it to be nonetheless,
Right.
that is EMS, I believe.
Oh,
And
correct. Yeah.
so it's kind of fun, I'll admit, trying to translate and figure out, sort of the etiology of their reasoning and then how it was written. It's
Correct.
it's almost like reading, read between the lines. It's like reading, reading comprehension. What did they mean by this? What did they mean by that? So I don't know. It's a fun puzzle. So we enjoy unpacking it.
We do. And I love a good puzzle. Um, but my but it's kind of like what we talked about last week or last pod with the D said, the double sequential external defibrillation is that if you're using it and you're using it effectively in hospital or in pre-hospital, all of a sudden you're supposed to just stop using it because they're saying there's no benefit because there've been like 4 or 5 really flawed research studies, showing that, there's no benefit. And that's my concern. Like, if you have the devices, if you train them, if you use them, don't just throw them out the window and be like, "Oh, not using those." What, trash them.
That literally has occurred as we
And it
spoke
has
about
occurred.
offline. Yeah.
Some large medical centers and hospitals, because of these statements, have gotten rid of their entire fleets
Ugh,
of of mechanical CPR devices. Which, I mean, talk about a sin. The amount of money you
that
spend on them,
infuriates me. That really bothers me.
it sickens me
Yeah.
because,
It's oh
well, for a couple of reasons. Not only because as someone who has deployed mechanical CPR devices like from scratch, like we did not have them from in hospital and having to train all of the staff and get them
we
in
did
place.
that together.
We did. And all the training that we did and then tracking and policies and logistics and, oh, all that nightmare. So first of all, I feel like I have a little bit of PTSD about that. But backing it up, I can't even wrap my head around just like getting rid of it because of all that work that you put into it just because of this statement. Um,
Gosh, I can't
because
either. And I made light of it in terms of people are like, oh, don't take my equipment. But it's like when that is actually occurring, when the equipment is being taken literally out of the facility that has been utilized, and some of these practitioners know it's been effective.
right.
How can you do that?
I agree because the other thing is that just because you're in a hospital doesn't mean that there isn't transportation. Like, I can't tell you how many times I
Seriously,
got a patient in a rest that we've been down in CAT scan or we were down in MRI,
with the hospital after
and we
all,
had
it
to
can
get
be
back
anywhere.
to the ICU. So I'm straddling a patient doing really crappy compressions while a respiratory therapist, a doctor, and other people are, other nurses who have come are pushing this really heavy bed with a heavy patient and me to get us back to the unit while someone's bag masking them. We were trying to intubate them. Like, I've done that so many times when I was, younger. Like, that's not effective. It's not safe.
No.
And it's really not okay.
And a hospital is not automatically some laboratory setting where it's, oh, we're in a nice room, perfectly lit, beds at the right height. No, you could have, it's not just applicable to EMS. You could have absolute chaos,
Yes.
controlled chaos on scene,
Sometimes it's
right?
uncontrolled
And
chaos.
I
Yeah.
need to move someone from here to over there. Hence, I might want to use my movement device in order to
Right.
obtain the efficacy of compressions.
Especially if a patient's on a medical surgical, like a ward, like
Mhm.
you know, you're when they call for a code blue and we arrive as the code blue team, then we get ROSC and we're like, great, we're going to bring them to the ICU. They do rearrest sometimes when you're transporting to the ICU. And
They're
there's,
pretty vulnerable.
before we had a mechanical CPR device, it was like, okay, do we just stop and start compressions here? Like, or just sprint, And there were times that we just sprinted from one building to the other. And I think those buildings I'm talking about. One of them has quite a
And
quite
correct
an
me if I'm
angle, and
wrong.
you're ramming these patients up there,
Yeah.
and it's just
When sprinting, you're not compressing.
Correct.
If you
No,
are
we do.
compressing, they are half-assed. Like, they are not
Yep.
going to be effective. You are not getting 2 inches. You're not getting 100 to 120. Impossible. So that is absolutely the same as EMS, where you're doing extrication down a stairwell. Totally same situation.
Right.
You're not getting effective compressions. If the device was on, wouldn't be a problem. You would be that entire time.
Correct. And you're not doing the best for the patient. And that's
That's where it's at.
what's important. And that's what really matters.
Yes.
So
That's where
that's
this
why
passion emanates from.
yeah. And that's why I don't love the statements of the guidelines, because I don't also feel like the research, that's not really what the research says. And
Right.
we are going to get into the research
We are.
on mechanical CPR on the next episode.
And
This is
more.
another two-parter. It's going to be the research
Big topic. It deserves 2,
and more. You got, you got it.
maybe 3. We'll see.
All right. Well, we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear more about what you think. Have you used mechanical CPR? Does it work? Do you think? Do you support the guidelines? What's going on? Have you tossed yours out the window, or are you still using them?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
with that,
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
you know what we like to do.
Speak up.
There are 1 million ways to die. We just wanna talk